Hi everyone, hope you're all keeping well, and thanks for joining us for another of FlowForma's exclusive virtual workshops today, where you'll once again see another significant business process digitized in under 1 hour. My name is Conor McGrath. I'm a digital marketing executive here at FlowForma, and I'll be your host for today's workshop session. And we're really excited about this one again. I know the last workshop we ran similar to this was a roaring success, and I'm sure everyone on the call today will get a great benefit from our session today. Okay, so I'm delighted to be joined once again by my colleagues, David Shanley, he's product specialist, and Stuart Miller, who is territory manager here at FlowForma. And once again, we wanted to give our audience today an insight into how easy it can be to use the FlowForma process automation tool, and show you how it allows you to digitize your processes quickly, gain rapid adoption, and get an early return on your investment also. During this workshop, we ask our audience today to ask as many questions as possible and take part in our polls as well that we've got coming up. We'll hopefully get some of those questions answered for you whilst David and Stuart are building out the process. So please do use the chat box today and take part in those polls. And with that in mind, we've got our first one. So as we're doing introductions, I guess it's it'd be nice to see where our audience is logging in from today. So let's get an idea as to, yeah, absolutely, sure. So let's get an idea as to where everyone is logging in from today. And there's some answers starting to come in on that as well, and it seems quite varied. And I might just give that another 10 or 15 seconds. And we can close that one off. I might close it off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so thanks for participating in the first of our polls today, and it's nice to see such a diverse mix here today. And once again, a warm welcome to you all, and thanks for taking the time to join us today. Okay, so the results are in. As you know, once again, before today, we asked you all what process you would like to see digitized during today's session. And as you can see on the pie chart here, we declare a winner with 31% of our registrants for today's session wanting to see an incident management process automated during our workshop session today. And I suppose let's get another poll up and ask, what are your process challenges that you're currently facing? I know this will be very relevant for everyone today, so let's get that poll up and see what your process challenges are. So we've got your process is currently paper-based, and there's a lack of mobile accessibility for online and offline. You've got perhaps poor communication with suppliers or third parties, or information is submitted incorrect or is lost in email. So there's quite a diverse mix there, and it's nice to see those results coming in now. I'm just going to give it a little bit more time for those to be answered. It seems to be an overwhelming majority of people who are currently on paper-based, guys. So that might be something to keep in our mind for today's session. So I'm just going to close this one off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to close that off, and we're just going to show the results of this one here. I'm sure this will be really interesting to see that 64% of our audience today are currently on paper-based, which is a staggeringly high number in comparison to the other challenges that could potentially be there. So a landslide on this one. So now that we know the process and we know our audience's challenges today, I'm going to let you take over, Stuart and Dave, and we can get cracking on this.
Thank you, Connor. Hello and welcome to our global audience. We're delighted that you could join us for the next hour. I think with the 64% that are got manual processes, you're really going to enjoy this session, because you're going to see how easy and how quick it is to digitize your processes with the 100% no-code tool. So Dave and I are excited for this session as we pick up the challenge, or Dave's going to pick up the majority of the challenge in digitizing that incident management process in less than an hour. So, Dave, how are you, and how do you feel about the choice?
It's a very good choice. It's one, I guess, that applies across all businesses, across all verticals.
Yep.
So it's very relevant.
Yep. Okay, cool. It was a tight decision, wasn't it, in choosing it? Yeah, because it was a sort of a three-way horse, just outvoting the change request and the purchase order request process. So I think we're conscious that some of you may be slightly disappointed that it's not one of your own choices. However, there is going to be plenty that you will learn from this session, and you'll get loads of ideas on how easy it is to digitize your processes with the tool. However, there is an open invitation to get in touch with us. Connor's going to spin up the contact details of how to get through to us at the end of the webinar, where we can arrange a one-to-one session where we can focus on your own particular process challenges. And we can even arrange a tailored demonstration session showing you how easy it is to digitize one of your own chosen processes. So we can do that, and there's an open invitation there for you. But this session, this solution is not about digitizing just one process, right? This is about business users using the FlowForma solution in a self-sufficient way to digitize with ease and speed processes right across your organization with rapid agility. So here's a list of just a small example of some of the processes our customers are digitizing themselves. And this is absolutely the tip of the iceberg. So what you'll see is, I'm not going to read these out for you, but you'll see that they are per department in the four corners of an organization. There's cross-functional. There's actually external organizations, suppliers and contractors involved in some of those. There's sign-off approvals, there's document management, there's all sorts and variety in there. And that is just a small tip of the iceberg. But basically what FlowForma is doing for our customers is giving them rapid agility, giving them the flexibility, giving them the scalability to digitize processes at will, very self-sufficiently and very quickly after a 2-day training session. So our customers are telling us that FlowForma is different to anything available in the market, and it's all about the value their organizations can deliver with that rapid business process agility. So, look, right, enough of the chat from me, as we're eating up Dave's time, and he's got a challenge on his hand to do this successfully. But Dave, how are you going to do this? What's your plan?
I'm just going to build it, hopefully within the allocated time.
Just a simple answer. Right, let's crack on.
Okay, so let me know when you can see my screen, folks.
Can see it now. Oh,
okay, excellent. So let's get cracking.
Here we go.
Where we are now at the moment is the landing page for FlowForma app. It sits on SharePoint Online, and we use SharePoint essentially as a content database. So any forms created in this SharePoint environment will get appended to an all forms list here in the admin section. So every time you create a new form, you'll add to this list here. You have a default set of columns from title through to modified. And then if you want to publish questions through, they can be represented as additional columns to the right of that. So in reality, the end user isn't going to be going in here into this dashboard here, this app dashboard. They're going to, all you need is a link to the form that you want to initiate or a link to a pre-existing form. So that's going to be surfaced up above the app. An example for desktop might be, say, this construction accelerator dashboard here. So this is a SharePoint team site that has tiles to initiate each process here. And what it also has in place here is a forms awaiting my input, which is simply a list view of all forms surface up for specific users. So I can click through to any one of these forms here and I can engage with it.
That's what the user will see.
Exactly. In this instance here, in the case of the materials requisition, we're actually using FlowForma's built-in SQL rules to push data through the SQL Server and pull it back into a Power BI dashboard here. So it gives the end user a nice kind of holistic overview of all the various different touch points they need to engage with within the organization. So that's
so
more.
it links automatically to Power BI. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump back into the app here, and I'm going to show you what we're going to build. The process we're going to build is the winning process, incident management, and I'm going to initiate it here by clicking on the tile. And I'm just going to go through the form once so you can visualize what it is we're going to be building. So just to talk a little bit about the layout of the form, the header portion up here is customizable. So I can pull in a logo up here, for example. I can also take data captured in the form and push it up into the header if you want all users to have visibility of that content. Sitting directly underneath that, we have a gray step bar within which we have a set of steps. The currently engaged in step is always in white, which in this case here is the initial incident detail step, followed by a regulatory reporting step, an incident investigation, and an incident closure. So 4 steps in the process potentially. Now you'll notice here as well with the form UI, it's one single interface you're working off. So if the person that designs this build decides, you can have visibility as to where you sit within the process. So I can see these 3 subsequent steps here. I understand contextually where I sit within the process. It's one single form interface you're working from. You've all your various different question types here. They align with the native SharePoint data types, and we have our own custom question types as well. So for example, a geolocation question type here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through and show you what's happening under the hood whilst the user is engaging with the form. There's different types of rules firing that we're going to be building in our solution today. The first one is called the question change rule. Question change rules fire on the trigger question. And in this instance here, there's a question change rule under the incident type question. And that question change rule is a hide show question rule. And the rule is if incident type equals first aid or medical emergency, I want to show injury information and emergency services called. So question change rules are used a lot to hide and show content as the user is engaging with their step. So it's dynamic. So if I were to unselect that, that content is now gone. Okay. What we also have in place here is our site is a list lookup. I'm looking up a SharePoint list here for my unique sites, A through to C. But what is also going to happen here is we have a get list data rule firing. So if I select site A, it's going to pull through using a get list data rule the appropriate investigator, which happens to be me. And if I scroll down, you'll see the investigators pulled into this control here. And what that means is that when we click submit, we can have a step completed rule fire to assign the incident investigation step to that individual. So we've one question change rule here, hide show question, and we've got a get list data rule firing here. Again, both of these are question change rules and they sit on the trigger question. We have our incident location here. I can switch across the satellite if I wish. And I can pinpoint the exact location of it. It happened here in East Point, and that's the exact location here, right there, just to be precise. So we've got our date and time of the incident, the name of the affected individual. There may be multiple individuals involved in this, so maybe you want to have a table structure for that. I just have it as a single line of text for the moment. I have my incident description. And we have a repeating table here, the first of our repeating tables for the timeline. And the user can dynamically add to this. So I can put in all the various different times and the activities associated with here. Moving down to witness statements required, again, another question change rule sitting here. If witness statement required equals yes, show the separator here, witness statements, which is just a graphical representation, and a new table here. So I can add the witness statements names and upload the appropriate files here. So you're going to see me using an electric box file here for everything. Just in case you're wondering if that's quite an unusual way of capturing a statement, that's what that is there. Report hazards, again, another question change rule here. It's a hide show question rule. If report hazards equals yes, engage this block of content. Now with the report hazards, if I select my electric box again, and maybe there was an issue with that, it's going to preview it for me here. So if I'm working on a mobile device, so FlowForma has a mobile app for iOS and Android. If I'm working on a mobile device, I can be prompted for a picture in the form, and I can then pull the picture through into here in preview. And I can annotate it, so I can mark off exactly where the problem is and put in my description and so on. So we also have here, it's defaulting to report incident to regulatory body. So, maybe if it's just property damage, you don't need to do that. If you didn't have to do it, and I said no, it's going to ask me using the hide show question rule, why? And if I scroll back up, you'll see the regulatory body step is no longer in place in this form instance. But you know what? We're going to go say yes because, that's what we need to do in this instance. I'm going to sign it here using the wet signature. So the wet signature allows you to sign using your finger or a stylus on a device. I can save that. Now, once I've got that in place, the next thing I'm going to do is, once I'm happy, I'm going to click submit. Now we have business rules firing at step level as well. So the rules you've seen so far are basically question change rules. They fire on the trigger question. What we're going to look at now are step level rules. The first rule we're going to fire here is a step completed rule. And it's going to assign the second step to this individual here. Okay?
Yeah.
It's also going to send them an email notifying them they have an investigation that requires their attention. So when I click submit, those step completed rules are firing. I could also have rules firing on step save. If it's a long running process, you have to dip in and out of it multiple times. Now we also have our regular reporting step here, so I can then look up, I'm using a SharePoint list here in this instance, I'm just pulling through the appropriate regulatory body and the date in which they were actually notified of the incident. When I click submit, it's going to move through to the incident investigation. We already have that pre-assigned to a specific individual. That's the individual up here. And again, another table there to pull through actions. Now, what I can do here as an investigator is I can go back and take a look using view permissions on the initial step here by simply clicking on the box. And I can see everything that was submitted here. Now, I could also take that data, should I wish, and push it through to this step. And again, I can then task people here. If I could spell my own name, it would help. So here we go, date completed and so on. It's not. So, and so on. So incident investigation completed. If I say yes here, give my signature and click submit, it's going to move through to our final step here. And our final step is our incident closure. Now, let's just say for the sake of argument that on incident closure, they've reviewed all the actions and maybe something has not been done that needs to be completed. So in this case here, I'm going to say no. And because I'm saying no, we have a hide show question rule here, yet another question change rule, and it's going to ask for my comments. And if I put in my comments here, short and sweet, when I click submit, we're going to have a pass back rule that's going to pass it back to the previous step and show these comments read only on the previous step. So whoever was in charge of incident closure can go in here and say, yeah, okay, you needed to add an additional action here and so on. And once that's done and they click submit, it moves on again to closure. Again, I can review the content. If I'm happy this time, say yes, click submit, and the form has been completed. And that's what we're going to build out.
That's intuitive.
Now, what we also have in place here is I also have a generate document rule firing, and that is generating this document and convert it into a PDF. So that's a very basic version of the document there, and hopefully we'll get to that before the end of our presentation. Okay, so I'm going to close this. And we're going to start our build. So you'll be delighted to hear, Stuart, I actually have a notepad here. I've put all the fields in place here, so I won't be clattering away in the keyboards. I know I'm very noisy, so I'm going to actually use this here instead. So lots of copy pasting. It'll speed things up too.
Excellent. So, as always, Dave, I knew it'd be planned.
Yep. What's the phrase? Prepare to fail, fail to prepare?
Yes.
No, that's not quite it. That's not quite it. Okay, so anyway, okay, so it's going to be our incident management. Fail to prepare, prepare to fail. That's it. Incident management webinar.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put in a prefix. So that's going to appear ahead of the numeric ID of any forms created from this process build. What this is going to open up for us now is Flow Designer. So Flow Designer is a 3-in-1 toolkit. It combines your forms, your workflow, and your document generation capabilities in one single build interface. And it's 100% no code. And there are two very important things, the single build interface and 100% no code. A lot of tools that are out there use Canvas-based technology, and people get very excited when they, can pull together a form very quickly, but then they have to apply business logic to that form, typically using expression language. Then they have to knit that together with a workflow component. So, it's not that straightforward. The more complex the process, the more intricate and more detailed that build becomes. This is one
Yeah,
single build interface, and it's designed from the ground up for process owners. So I'm going to start copying my steps through here. And that's how you start your build. You just add your steps first. And a step being a block of content you can attribute to a person or indeed to a group of people. So all I'm doing here is just copying and pasting through. And then
that's
we're going
the
to start
feedback
adding our fields. What's that, Stuart? Sorry. And then we have our instant investigation here. So all I'm doing is adding my steps initially. And this is a fundamentally different way of building as well. So you don't have to have a predefined data set that you need to pull through to create your initial form. You decide what information you want to capture here, and then you can decide what you want to do with that information. Maybe you want to push it through to a native list. Maybe you want to push it through the SQL Server. That's entirely up to you. So we have our steps in place now, and now we're going to add our questions. So the first one is going to be who reported the incident. So all I'm doing is selecting my initial step here. I'm going to add questions. And I'm going to paste through. And you see all the question types here. I'll scroll down through them slowly. There's a lot here. So that's looking up SharePoint lists, for example. That's dynamic CRM, entity data management, SQL lookups.
Yeah, there's a
Repeating
lot there,
table
isn't there?
structures, wet signatures, which you'll see in the build. Location, which you'll also see in the build. What we're going to use here is a person or group. I'm going to set it to the current user. As with all questions, you can make them mandatory. I'm not going to do that now for the build. And then we're going to go for our incident type. So what type of incident is this? Paste this through here.
Yeah, quick and easy, the nature of no code.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm quicker with copy pasting or keying the text in. This bit's quicker anyway.
You're doing all right, Dave.
You'll see here our choice values. I'm going to make that checkbox so they can select multiple. Injury information. So again, what I'm doing here is I'm putting through all of the questions that may or may not be needed. When I talk about questions, some of you may refer to them as fields.
Yeah. Dave, if you've got time, we've got our first question in from Philip, who's asking about what's the most popular features that our customers use.
The most popular features. Engage is very popular. So the ability to engage with externals. So people external to your organization, third parties, either anonymously or via secure access using FlowForma. That's very, very popular.
Yeah. Anything else that springs to mind?
I'd say I'd go to the very heart of the product and say like the core features are, are what FlowForma is really about. The fact that it's 100% no code, as you'll see now shortly, and the fact that it's a single build interface. Like there's a lot of features that we're not going to get to go into detail with here, but at the very heart of the product, it's a single build interface, it's a single form interface, and it's 100% no code. So for our site here, so what I'm doing, I'm going to go through these reasonably fast here, or as fast as I can. So my site is going to be lookup. I'm just looking up a SharePoint list here. That's the list we're going to look up in this first column. So I'm just going to select my list here. So again, lists are very useful here. You can use them obviously for single lookups like this. You can pull data through from them, but you can also use them for cascading through content if you want to apply filters and so on. So they're very, very useful. So I am Site Investigator. I'm going to look it up in the site column. Next thing I want to capture is the incident location. That's going to be a geolocation question. And I'm going to add that here now.
Very easy to do.
Yes, it is. Now, in fairness, most tools are quite straightforward when it comes to the building of a form. The challenge really is around applying business logic, workflow logic. So that's where FlowForma really sets itself apart.
So the clever bit still to come then.
Yes, absolutely. So get location by default. I'll include accuracy and altitude. And we're going to go for date and time of incident. When did the incident happen? So what I'm doing is layering this up here. And I'm adding all the questions that I may or may not need. So we're going to hide some of these shortly.
Okay.
We're going to apply business logic to display them. So the name of the individual, I'll just leave that single line of text. Maybe I'll increase the text box width. So there's other things you could do there. You could have first name, last name. You could concatenate the values and so on to get a full name. We've got our instant description, so that's going to be multiple lines of text. I'm just going to keep it plain. You could use rich text if you wanted to here. So now we're through to our first repeating table, the incident timeline. So I'm going to include a separator in here. So separator just denotes a section here. It's a graphical representation on your form.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it here, separator. So I'm just going to paste in what I want to appear in it. It's going to be 12 points in size. It's going to be bold. It's going to be white, and it's going to be against a, in this case, what I hope will be a dark gray background. Yeah. And then I'm going to add my incident timeline. This is my first table. And again, you know, for people that had voted for purchase requisitions, you're going to see how easy it is to build out a table here. You can cascade through content here, such as say category in your first column, subcategory in your second, pull through item descriptions, pull through prices, do calculations, pull the total calculation out. Do all that very easily, as you'll see here. You'll get a sense of it from the repeating table I built here as well. So here's my repeating table type. It's not fixed rows in this instance. I'm not going to show the question title. These are my sub-questions here. So each sub-question is its own unique column within the table. And I can apply business rules within here as well, such as get list data rules to pull through information specific to an item, for example, if I'm doing a lookup. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be a date and time. And we're going to have the activity. So again, this is just our incident timeline. And again,
very
this can
busy,
be as complex as
busy,
you need it to be.
It's busy, this process, isn't it?
Well, there's a lot going on, but there's a little bit of repetition in it, but I think it's useful in this instance just to see that.
Well, it's good that, you know, for the audience who didn't choose incident management, they can see some of the capability and apply it to other processes. So
absolutely. So witness statements required. It's going to be a yes, no. It's really when you get to applying the rules here that you know you're going to get a very, very strong sense as to what the capabilities are. So I'm going to add my witness statements. We're nearly at the end of the first step here. And as with a lot of processes, you know, it's the initial step that's quite front loaded. So, you know, you're going to have a lot of data collation in your first step or your initial steps. And then you're going to move through to, you know, approvers, gatekeepers, passing it forward and back. So the business rules you're going to see here are business rules that will apply. Yeah, they'll apply irregardless of your process and irregardless of the complexity of your process as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So witness statements.
Got a second question here, Dave.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll keep going.
Okay, cool. Michael, he's giving you a compliment here. He says impressive system, but wants to know about what the integration options are.
Okay, so there's built-in integration here out of the box. So there's SQL Server, Dynamics CRM, Entity Data Management, obviously with SharePoint as well, looking up lists. You can also call as your logic apps. So we have a connector up there. So if you've got a system that has a connector in logic apps, we can integrate directly into that using the interface in Flow Designer. For other integration options, once there's REST APIs available, we can create custom connectors to integration.
Okay, wow. Okay, thank you.
So for this one here, I'm just going to have two questions here, name and upload statements. Then we're going to go through to our hazards, and then we're nearly finished our first step. So name, single line of text, and I'm going to upload my statements here. And we're going to be starting our rules now in a few moments, which I think is what most people are waiting for.
Yeah, this is the clever stuff coming up, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to go through here. Last set of tables here is going to be our report hazards, and then we're nearly done. So
wow, that's quick.
Hazard. Yes, no. And we'll just have our hazard separator here as well.
So for those people who haven't, this is the first time they've seen it, how much training do we give to get them up and running to be self-sufficient?
A couple of days, which is not a steep learning curve in comparison to a lot of the tools that are out there. So You can
Wow.
pick this up very quickly. You're going to see, once you actually see the business rules being applied here, you'll get a very, very strong sense as to how intuitive it is, because it's all about context. It's all about seeing where your rules sit and why they sit where they sit. So, and that's that, and the fact that it's 100% no code. So understanding why your rules are positioned where they are is a big thing.
Okay.
So we're going to upload a hazard here. Yeah, go ahead.
2 days training and people can then be able to do this.
Yeah. Wow. So upload hazard, show image in preview. I'm going to preview an image here. I'm going to keep it 500 pixels. I'm going to allow annotation over the image. So that's my file upload. And then I'll just get a description alongside that. And that's my hazards table done. And we're nearly wrapped up in our first step here. And we have very few questions in our next step. So we'll plow through that very quickly. And then we'll get into our rules. So do I want to report the incident to a regulatory body? I'm going to ask that question here now very quickly. That's going to be a yes or a no. And if I decide not to, it's going to ask me, well, why don't you want to report it? So you're capturing information as and when it's relevant in the build. And lastly, incident reported by. That's simply, I'm just repeating the question from earlier because I want to have a signature sitting above that. So just so people know there, that's themselves. It's signing here. Signature, I'm going to bring through as a wet signature, which means given that this is going to be used on site on a tablet, as I mentioned previously, FlowForma is available for iOS and Android and has offline capabilities as well, which is important. So what that means essentially is that you can engage with a process and the data you input will be cached on a device. And once you have connectivity, it'll be uploaded back onto SharePoint for you.
Okay.
So those are all of my fields here in my initial step. And I'm going to go through to my second step. There's only 2 questions here. And that's going to be, we need to find out who's this regulatory body that was notified. All I'm doing is selecting the step here. We're just going to look up. We have a SharePoint list, and we're just going to look up from a drop-down then the regulatory bodies and pick one. So in about 2-3 minutes time, we're going to be going into our rules.
Okay.
So you'll see here, I have IAM regulatory body. I'm going to look up the initial column, and that's just locked in for me already. And then I'm just going to add one more question here, date and time notified. And then we're going to go through to our incident investigation. Who's investigated this incident? And we're going to be applying a rule on the completion of the first step to assign to a very, very specific individual. And then we've got our actions. What are the actions that are falling out from this?
Very straightforward. Yeah.
And our last repeating table, you've delighted to hear, is our actions, who's completed each action and what date it was done. Again, the first sub-question is going to be the action. Now you could, for example, use SharePoint list here and cascade through. So you might want to say it's a specific action type and then a subtype and so on. So that might be of interest to you if you wanted to report on this. Completed by, who completed the action. For more complex process, you could push this information through to a SharePoint list and then pull it through for each individual that's working on this as for their own unique steps. So they'd only work on their own actions, on their own dedicated steps if you wanted to. Completed by, that's going to be a person or group.
Got another question if you're ready, Dave.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah, from Alicia. She says, once a process has gone into the live environment, how easy is it to amend the process? So I would have thought what's behind the question is they release it into the public domain, they start using it, and they get some feedback from a department, and there's a small change to be done to that. Is that Can that be done easily?
Oh, it can, yeah. So it's a very agile tool to build with. As you'll see now, once we start throwing some rules in here as well. It's very quick and easy to make changes to it. And
Okay.
it's very easy to understand what has been built and why it was built the way it was built. You don't have to untangle it. So
Okay.
incident investigation completed. I've got my signature. Here we go. We're nearly done, and it's the rules time.
Okay, here we go.
Signature. Lastly, comments. Now, the reason I'm adding comments in here is that if it passes back to the step, they're going to be required because I want to be able to see what the comments were from the incident close step.
Mm-hmm.
And very lastly, incident close, yes, no, and comments. And then we are done.
Okay.
We move on to the fun part.
Yeah, well, that's about 25 minutes to build the steps and questions. Very quick.
Incident close, yes, no. And if it's not closed, we want to have comments. And we want to send it back to the previous step. So our comments are here. Okay, and we're done. Those are all our questions done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at our question change rules. So question change rules fire on the trigger questions. So I'm going to select my first question here. This one here, I'm selecting, I'm going to make it read only. Systems pulling in the current user. The incident type. If the incident type is a first aid or medical emergency, I want to show this information here, these two fields here. So I'm going to hide these two by default. The trigger point to determine whether they're required is here. That's where I'm going to apply my first question change rule on my trigger question. The rules I can apply here for question change rules are here. There's quite a lot to them. As you can see here, all these data integration rules.
Comprehensive.
Application rules, SharePoint actions, permissions, and so on. There's a lot of depth here. What we're going to use here is a simple hide show question rule. And we're going to edit our condition here. And it's using simple business logic. If I drill down, if incident type contains, in this instance, either first aid or incident type, I'm just drilling down, contains, again, the second selection is medical emergency treatment. If either of those are contained in it, click OK. I want to show, drilling down, injury information, and I want to show emergency services called. And again, I could be combining, I could be showing some questions, hiding others, and so on. That's my first rule in place here. Moving through to the site. Once the site has been determined, I know I can pull through the appropriate investigator. So the investigator I'm going to make read only here. I'm going to move back up to my trigger point here. I'm going to go to add rules, data integration, and it's a get list data rule. I'm going into this list here and filtering for the site. The list I want to extract is here.
Okay.
And it is this list here. And I want to apply a filter. The filter is going to be where the site equals the chosen site in my initial step here in my lookup. And I want to match then the investigator, pull that through from the column and map it into my investigator person or group here. And we're going to assign the second step to that individual. Incident location is fine, date and time, moving through here. Witness statements required. Again, if they're not, we don't need these two questions here. So I'm going to hide them. Trigger pointers here. Add rules. Hide show question. Always on my trigger question. Yeah, edit conditions. It's 100% no code. If I go in and edit my conditions here, I'm drilling down again. If witness statement required equals yes, in this instance, I'm just keying it in. I want to show, and I've hidden these questions by default, so I know I need to show them. I want to show witness statements, and I want to show the table. Same principle for here. Do I want to report hazards, yes or no? Again, let's hide them by default. Trigger point is here. Okay, go to my add rules, another hide show question rule. So you get into the rhythm of building here very quickly and easily.
Yeah, you're using hide show quite a bit there, aren't you?
Yeah, and you do use it quite a bit. So if I drill down here, report hazards equals yes, If that condition is met, I want to show two questions, my separator
Yep.
and my table. Keep going down here, report instance to regulatory body. I'm going to hide this. Now, reporting the instance to the regulatory body, if the answer is no, I want to hide this step here. So I'm going to go in here, add rules, and it's a hide show question rule. And edit my conditions. Actually, it's a hide show step rule. What am I going into here? Yeah, hide show step, edit conditions. So we have the step visible by default. So if I go in here and say report instance regulatory body equals no, I'm going to hide that step.
Yep.
And what I'm also going to do on the same trigger point is a hide show question rule. So if the answer to that is no, I want to capture why. So edit conditions. Again, drilling down. Report incident equals no. If that condition is fulfilled, I want to show reason not reported.
Yep.
Okay. Those are my question change rules there on my initial step. We've got one here as well. If incident close is equal to no, we're going to show comments. I'm going to hide comments here. And I'm going to go to my trigger point here. If incident close is no, show comments. So edit, add rules, hide show question, edit conditions, incident close equals no. If that condition is met, I want to show, again, drilling down, comments. And you'll see here, I've misspelled something. I can go in and edit it very quickly and easily. And correct my spelling mistake here.
Okay.
So what I want to do here, those are my question change rules in place, okay? What I want to do next is, now I can go in and I can preview what I've done here as well. I can go into my first step, for example, and I can take a look and I can see my rules firing. So if I come in here, I can scroll and I can look at my witness statements required equals yes. There's my rule of firing. Report hazards equals yes. There's my rule of firing.
Wow. Okay.
So I can go in and preview very quick. Now, what I want to do now is step level rules. At step level, I'm going to go, and again, I'm not at question level, I'm at step level. I want to assign workflow control rule. I want to assign the second step to an individual. The third step is incident investigation. It's a person defined in a question. And we already pulled that information through with our get list data rule from this list up here. So we're going to assign that step to this individual here. And we can also send them an email. So I actually have the email pre-built. So I'm going to go send email. And the email we're going to send is, I have one here in the templates, I think. Incident investigation required. If I edit that, you can see how the email is put together. I can pull tokens in from the form, such as the investigator's name, and there's a link to the form here as well. Who am I sending it to? User defined in a question. If I drill down, who's the user? It's the investigator. I can do lots more here. I can send it on predefined dates. I can attach documents and so on. It's a step level rule, so you'll see the event is completing. In this instance here, it could be saving either. So
100% no code, folks. You're just seeing it in front of your eyes.
So moving down here to incident closure, we know if incident closure is no, I want to send it back to the previous step. Now, if I'm sending it back to the previous step, I want to have these comments hidden in read-only. They're not needed at the outset. They're only needed should it go back to that step. So at step level here, we already have our hide show question rule in place here. At step level, I'm going to go add rules. I'm going to add a passback rule. My condition in this instance is, if I drill down, if incident closed equals no. If that condition is fulfilled, I want to send it back to this incident investigation step here. It really is as simple as that. Now, when I send it back, I want to copy the comments back as well. So another rule here, it's a hide show question rule. Again, you're seeing these rules over and over again, so you get very familiar with them. Edit conditions, drill down. If incident closed equals no. If that condition is met, I want to show the comments that are hidden on the previous step.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
And lastly, data integration, set question value. I want to copy the comments through to that step from our incident closure step.
Yeah. So 2 days of training, I can see business users doing all this. Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
let me see, is there anything else I need to apply here? Okay, let's take a look what we've built.
Good idea.
He said tentatively. Okay, let's go create new form. Let's give it a bash. So here it is here. Okay, we've got first aid. There you see injury information,
Yeah.
emergency service call, our rule is fired. We've got our site here. Again, we know if I select the site here, it's going to pull through the appropriate individual here. And we know these rules work here. We've already seen them in place. So what I might do here as well is, you see report incident to regulatory body. That step's in place as is. If I go in here and say no, 2 rules are firing. One is going to hide that step. The other is going to ask me, why am I not reporting it? See?
Yeah.
Reason not
Very
reported, step's gone. I'd make this read only as well. I don't want the user to edit that. So I can put my signature in here as well.
good.
And when I click submit here, we've got our step assigned to assign this, the 3rd step, or in this case, it's now the 2nd step, to the investigator, send them an email. On receipt of the email, manager clicks the link, takes it through to here. So I need to just set that to the current user here. I can do that now in a moment. Put in my actions here. Completed by, date completed, incident investigation completed. Stick my signature here and click submit. So it moves on to our incident closure step here now. Again, incident closure, I could take all the data populated in all these steps here, push it through should I wish. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to give the owner of incident closure view permission on these steps. So I can look through all the content here. And if I'm not happy with it, I know when I click no, it's going to ask me for my comments. And because it's no incident closure, when I click submit, it's not going to close the form and finish the form. It's going to pass it back. Now you'll notice there is a pass back button here. That gives the user a lot of flexibility. So what we do here is we take that button out completely. We're governing with a business rule here. When I click submit, step completed rule is going to fire. If incident closed equals no, it's going to pass it back to the previous step and show these comments embedded.
Yep.
And there they are. So I can go in here, make the appropriate change, and again, push it on and get it sorted. Now, what I haven't covered off here, so that's pretty much the build done in, I don't know what that was, 30 minutes, was it? But what you're seeing here are rules you're going to see across all processes, irregardless of their complexity. What I'd like to show you very quickly here,
well done. Is I didn't notice any mistakes there, Dave, either.
No, nor did I. Not that I would own up to them anyway. So what we're going to look at next is if I go in here, this is an example just of a document template here. So the document template, how that works is you can install a plugin in your desktop version of Word, a FlowForma plugin. That'll then be represented as a tab up here. Once you upload then a template into a document library associated with a process, you can then build out that document with attributes or tokens from the process. So if I go in here, you'll see each of these little icons here. These little clipboard icons is its own token. So if I drill down here, I can pull through, say, regulatory title, regulatory body notified, and the answer here. I have all the functionality and editing capabilities of Word in place here for me to use. I just put this table structure here, and you can also apply business rules. So you'll see here, this section's got a rule associated with it. And what it's doing there is it's going to, if I go into the rules tab, you'll see the rule here. And it's saying it's only going to show injury information if the following conditions are true. If the incident type contains first aid or medical emergency, that's the only time you're going to see that content in the generated document. What that means fundamentally is that the document you do generate will expand or contract depending on the instance in which it's generated. The Word document is created here can be routed through to document libraries, predefined using concatenated values in your build, for example. It can be converted to a PDF, attached to emails, and so on. Now, what I'd like to kind of top and tail this with here is it's not just about the speed at which you can build, it's also the importance that we place on managing forms that are spun out using FlowForma. So you'll see here, if I go into process performance, that gives an administrator visibility at step level, at a very granular level for processes, to see how they're performing relative to predefined SLAs or times to completion, which can be set at step level. So for example, on this one here, incident investigation, there's 2 that are late. I can go into one of these and I can assign it to myself or somebody else and free up the bottlenecks. But there's a lot more depth there as well, which we can't even begin to cover off. So for example, with work items, I can actually, in my build, I can determine the maximum number of forms any one individual should have on their desk. Should that be exceeded, I can build in a rule in the process to automatically reassign it to the next available individual. And that might be done in a matter of hours as distinct from days if it's a critical process. So you have all that visibility. You also have audit trails as well here associated with the forms that are built, so you can see when rules were fired, etc., and also around the actual process build at a moment in time, which generates a Word document with a flow diagram representation associated with it. So if I were to go in here for a minute, so it's all about kind of, you know, taking those bottlenecks and freeing them up. So it's not just a case of, you know, building out a process and then just spitting it out and then hope for the best. It's about managing those forms. It's about making sure the SLAs and times to completion are reasonable.
Yeah.
It's about being able to go into an agile build and change those as well. There's a lot more you can do here as well. So you can see here, if you want to go in and engage with a process, visually, you can do so as well, and that allows, you know, stakeholders come in and sit through, say, a whiteboard session and add your steps in this way and publish them through. What I'd like to show you lastly here, if I may, is governance.
Yeah.
Governance is a hub that allows IT to manage what environments are created and when, who has access to these environments, what processes are promoted through from one environment through to the next. So it is important to give process owners the power to build, but they want to have that reassurance they can build in a sandbox environment, not break anything, and do what they need to do. And when IT is happy to accept a process promotion, say into a UAT environment, they can do so. So you have all your environments hubs here. This is what IT would see, all these tabs here. And then the user would only see my recent requests and request new environment. So I can ask for a new environment, an environment type, my rationale, and so on, and security templates associated with that. And then, you know, IT can decide what environments are spun up, and IT can decide what processes are promoted. So I could put in a request as a process owner to bulk promote a set of processes through to a UAT environment from Sandbox. IT have full visibility and control over all of this, together with usage and stats, adoption hub as well, around user groups, management, customizations, and so on, and licensing hub. So IT then has that level of control, that appropriate level of control over how process owners are building. And again, the beauty of FlowForma, I just want to touch on this very quickly here, because I haven't. It's all about context. Because you're building from a single interface, I can go back into a build. Maybe it's one I did, you know, 9 months ago. Maybe it needs to be changed. You know, in a lot of the tools that are out there, it's very difficult to untangle what you've done. In this, it's very easy. So I can go in here. I can see contextually where my rules sit very quickly. If I click on incident type, I can see my rule. My summary, I can disable it. So I can see where my rules sit very quickly. And I can see logically why they sit, where they sit. And again, step level, same principle. So again, it's a single interface. It's 100% no code, and it's an intuitive tool to build with.
Fantastic. Well done, Dave. Congratulations. You succeeded. Never doubted you for a minute. So look,
thanks, Stuart.
We're going to pass back to Connor, but right there and there, ladies and gentlemen, you see business process agility with a no-code environment, and we'd love to be able to talk more to you about your own particular process challenges. As I mentioned, Connor will spin up the contact details later on. But back to you, Connor.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Very impressive.
Yeah, well done, Dave.
About 40 minutes of a build, which is very, very impressive. We're coming very close on time, though. But I want to squeeze in a final poll here just this evening on this one as well, and finding out from you what the outcome you're looking for most from digitizing. So I'm going to pull that up on the screen for you now. So what outcome is most important to you from digitizing your processes? Is it the ability to automate process in-house? Is it speed at which you can digitize your processes? As you can see from the workshop today here that Dave illustrated just how fast it is. You've got integration with other systems. I know there's been some questions have come in on that as well, and strong reporting capabilities, which Dave just touched on there as well, finally too, after showcasing how that build panned out. So I'm going to close that off in maybe 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm very conscious that we're close to time, but I do feel I should pull up these results on screen, and maybe just guys, what do you think on this? It's the ability to automate processes in-house at 88% is it's a significant figure, really, isn't it?
It
I think
is.
it naturally flows from the majority of the audience having manual processes at the minute. It's that agility to digitize processes at will. So yeah, absolutely, that 88%.
Yeah, and having the confidence to actually build yourself without having to outsource and incur that overhead.
Yeah,
definitely. Okay, we might move on to some questions finally as well. Just off of that, I know we're very close on time, and there's plenty of questions came in, but Dave, you're on a roll, and it's really impressive, and seeing the speed at which it can be done, and I know you're eager to showcase to not just anyone that voted for the incident management process, but to everyone there on the call that it's applicable for basically all processes, really. So I know you were eager to just press that point. So I might get to a couple of questions before we wrap up here finally. So Mike here is saying he has a lot of staff in remote areas, and he's asking, would the FlowForma tool work for remote users? Now, I know you did showcase some of that with the maps at the beginning, but maybe you might be able to elaborate a bit more on that, Dave, just very quickly.
So there's a FlowForma mobile app for both iOS and Android, and that has offline capabilities as well. So it's used a lot in various different sectors, construction in particular for on-site process engagement. And again, it has offline capabilities as well. So that's very important.
Yep, sure. I know we've had a few questions coming in around engagement or engaging external parties. There's a couple here. So there's one here asking, can I engage external parties such as suppliers into our processes? I think you might have covered that off earlier, Dave, but maybe
I touched on
this
it
person
lightly, yeah. So you can engage in third parties either anonymously or with secure access, and that can be across a process, not just an initial step. So that's absolutely no problem.
Okay, there is a question here around ROI. So how soon could I see ROI from implementing FlowForma? Maybe Stuart, you'd want to elaborate a little bit on that, but I suppose it's a question, how long is a piece of string, I suppose, and it depends on different circumstances.
It is, Connor, you're quite right. Every case is different. Every organization, every customer wants different outcomes. So it's done on an individual basis. So yes, we regularly work with customers on putting a business case together, and that's a collaborative process and individual to them. But as soon as you go live with your first process, you're experiencing a return on investment. And on average, you're looking at 4 to 6 weeks to experience that. So very quick.
Yeah, super quick. Okay, I see we are just pushing time, so we might wrap it up there today. And I know that Dave and Stuart, you were working at a million miles an hour there to get that done, but just to showcase just how quick it is and easy it is to use the tool. I mean, you can see it's quite easy to use, and that no-code centric side is, it's vital, and it makes that speed absolutely rapid. So we might wrap it up there. I know there was some questions came in. We'll get to them definitely afterwards. I thank you very much for taking part in the polls as well. But thanks as well for asking in those questions, and we'll get them answered for you as soon as we can. So finally, before we leave today, a quick reminder that you can book a one-to-one call with any one of our process experts, or sign up for a free 14-day trial on our website at www.flowforma.com, and our experts there are more than happy to help you steer your digital transformation journey in whatever need is possible. And finally, just a thank you to David and Stuart and to everyone who has attended today. Appreciate your feedback and your participation on the call today. And very quickly, a quick reminder, we've got a very, very short survey that follows this. If you could just take maybe 30 seconds to fill that out for us. It is really, really important and crucial for us when we're preparing upcoming webinars for you. So I suppose that's all really for today. Once again, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed and got the
Thank
benefit
you.
of our workshop today.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you very much, and bye for now. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.